You could see it coming from 5 time zones away, and yet it still played out with the dramatics of a dress rehearsal. Chelsea beat Los Angeles Football Club 2-0, and it surprised no one. Not the broadcasters, not the crowd, not even the players, really. This wasn't a contest as much as it was a procession, a ceremonial walk through the club hierarchy where European royalty is handed a scepter and politely applauded by clubs that know, deep down, they were just invited to make up the numbers. At this point in the Club World Cup, it's less of a global festival and more of a well-structured reminder. A reminder that when the lights are on and the stakes are dressed up in faux glamour, the European sides show up with all the predictability of gravity. This isn't me throwing shade at LAFC, by the way. They played their part. It's just that this whole format plays out like a rich man's open mic night. The Premier League money, the Champions League battle hardening, the sheer gravitational pull of resources. It shows. So here comes Chelsea. In a match that never looked like it was going to turn into anything unexpected, they strolled through like a team attending their own coronation. The rhythm was smooth, the dominance casual. It was like watching someone speedrun a video game they've played 100 times. They knew exactly where to jump, what to dodge, when to attack. And for LAFC, the problem wasn't effort. The problem was inevitability. You know that feeling when you're trying to keep up in a race but realize somewhere halfway through that your opponent isn't even breaking a sweat? That was them. They had their moments, sure. A few chances fluttered around the Chelsea box, a few runs broke into threatening territory. Denis Bouanga looked like he wanted to write a different story, and Hugo Lloris kept the scoreline from turning into something far more brutal. But there's a difference between resistance and rebellion. This was just the former. 2 goals, 1 in each half. That's all Chelsea needed. Pedro Neto's opener was as slick as it was simple, a cool left-foot finish after a textbook breakaway. Enzo Fernandez added the second, sweeping home from close range, almost as if to say, fine, let's wrap this up. There was no panache to that goal, no drama, just a goal-shaped full stop. What makes these matches tricky to talk about isn't the lack of quality, it's the lack of tension. You watch them unfold not wondering if Chelsea will score, but when. And every missed chance by LAFC doesn't inspire frustration. It inspires a quiet nod. Like, yeah, that was never going in. The entire experience feels like watching a Broadway play where only one actor got the full script. You admire the lighting, the choreography, the effort, but the outcome? You saw it in the trailer. Still, there's something beautiful in that cold efficiency. Chelsea didn't need to overextend. They didn't need to entertain. They just needed to win. And in football, that's a language everyone understands, even if you're shouting it across the pitch. So let's break down the 2 halves, if only to admire how little they surprised us. The first half started like a champagne bottle that had already been uncorked. No bang, no pop, just that soft hiss of something that's been left open a while. Chelsea walked onto the pitch with the swagger of a team that had already calculated their passing angles and pre-mapped the press. LAFC, to their credit, tried to match that energy with intent, but intent without execution is just noise. The opening moments belonged to Chelsea. It took all of 4 minutes for Nicholas Jackson to force Hugo Lloris into action. A clean right-footed effort, through ball from Madueke, and boom, already knocking at the door. You could practically see the narrative rolling out in front of you like a red carpet. Chelsea had stepped into their lines. LAFC were improvising. By the time Pedro Neto buried the first goal in the 33rd minute, it felt overdue, not climactic. A left-footed finish from the heart of the box, set up with surgical precision by Jackson. The kind of goal that looks simple because every part of it is rehearsed. Fast break, slotted through, clean strike. No fireworks, just a scalpel. The halftime whistle came like a timeout in a game of chess. Chelsea had their knight firmly on the board. LAFC had their pieces, but no plan. And you could feel it in the air. Unless something broke dramatically, this was going to be a slow bleed. Now, second half. You know those football matches where the second half is a revelation? A twist in the tale? Yeah, this wasn't that. This was the second act of a play that had already revealed the ending. LAFC made their changes. Giroud came on, Martinez too, but the vibe didn't shift. Chelsea responded with Enzo Fernandez and Malo Gusto, and just like that, the gear shift was complete. The tempo didn't spike. It settled. Chelsea knew the game was theirs if they just didn't mess up. And they didn't. They played like a machine that had been dusted off just enough for this tournament. And in the 78th minute, Enzo Fernandez said thank you very much. Liam Delap crossed from the right. Fernandez moved like a shadow and poked it home. 2-0. Game over, really. From then on, it was practice. Chelsea brought on Nkunku, Asugo. LAFC answered with Yeboah and Marlon. The crowd clapped, the minutes ticked, and the match meandered toward closure like an overlong movie that's already shown its best scene. There were a few moments, Pedro Neto rattling the bar in the 92nd minute, Buanga testing Sanchez now and then, but it all felt like curtain calls. By the time the final whistle blew, Chelsea didn't celebrate. They confirmed. A 2-0 win that felt more like a reminder than a revelation. A statement not of ambition but of expectation, as if to say, we're still Chelsea. You knew what this was. And the audience? They did. They really, really did. It's always interesting, maybe even a little tragic, the way these games tell you everything about the teams involved without them ever having to speak. Chelsea and LAFC played 90-something minutes, but the story was already etched into their DNA before the first whistle. Chelsea, a team built for matches like these. LAFC, a team trying to convince themselves they belong. Let's start with Chelsea, because frankly, they demanded it. Not loudly, not arrogantly, just by doing what they were built to do. This isn't the Chelsea of yesteryear, with legends barking orders and matches hanging on razor wire. This Chelsea feels engineered. Like a luxury car. Smooth when it needs to be, brutal when it wants to be. Every pass, every rotation, every substitution, it had purpose. Enzo Fernandez wasn't just a midfielder, he was a metronome. Cole Palmer and Pedro Neto drifted in and out of spaces like fog. And at the back, Tosin Adarabioyo and Levi Colwill weren't tested much. But that's the point. They didn't let the fire start. And then there's LAFC, who played like a team still finding out how deep the pool is. They dipped their toes, tried some laps, but Chelsea had already done the swim, showered, and were handing out towels. It's not a dig, it's just levels. LAFC aren't bad, but they aren't built for this kind of confrontation. Not yet. Their spine showed flashes. Denis Buanga was a headache even when Chelsea wasn't interested in having one. His runs were stubborn, his energy absolute. But stubbornness isn't a plan, and neither is hope. Timothy Tillman had a few glimmers, winning the fouls, linking midfield, but his influence wavered the longer Chelsea dragged LAFC into deep water. David Martinez was brave. He fouled, got fouled, threw himself into everything. And Hugo Lloris? Poor guy probably woke up with Palmer's boots imprinted on his dreams. But it's always a bad sign when your goalkeeper is your most poetic performer. LAFC didn't play scared. Let's be clear on that. They played like a side that wanted to punch above their weight, and that's noble. It's also exhausting. You spend so much time trying to keep up, you forget to make your own music. It's like singing karaoke next to Adele. You might hit the notes, but the room knows who the real voice belongs to. And part of that is structural. Chelsea trains in a crucible of expectation, week in and week out. Pressure is their environment. LAFC, the pressure here was different. Bigger. Maybe even too big. They played like a team chasing something that always stayed 2 passes ahead. But you want to root for them. They're scrappy. They pressed, they rotated, they tried. And sometimes, just sometimes, effort is beautiful. Like even when it doesn't bloom. This wasn't an embarrassment. It was just a schooling. A quiet one, no shouting. Just Chelsea writing the curriculum. LAFC taking notes. What remains, though, is the feeling. One team played the game. The other played the occasion. And now we come to the part where the players stop being numbers on a team sheet and start becoming emotions. Personalities. Little bursts of story stitched into a 90-minute play. Because let's be honest, it's not the tactics or formations that stay with you. It's Pedro Neto slicing through space like he owns it. It's Enzo Fernandez moving like time slows down for him. It's Hugo Lloris refusing to roll over, even as the walls close in. Pedro Neto. Let's start there. Not because he scored the opener, though he did, clean and cold, but because he played like a man in conversation with the ball. Every touch was calculated, but never mechanical. You know those players who seem to disappear from the screen until they're suddenly at the heart of it all? That was Neto. You blink, and he's already in the box. You breathe, and the net's rippling. That goal? Calm, almost disrespectfully so. A left-footed whisper into the far corner, like he was bored of the build-up and wanted to get on with it. Then there's Enzo Fernandez. That second goal wasn't about power or audacity. It was about timing. About being in the right place with the right read. He ghosted in, didn't even ask for attention, just slotted the thing away like he was putting down a cup of tea. He didn't need to do more, because what he did was everything Chelsea needed. Cole Palmer was a live wire. His shots didn't all land, but his intent never dipped. He's the kind of player who carries a match in his head, even when his feet are off by a fraction. You watch him and you feel like something could happen at any second. It didn't this time. But the feeling, it lingers. Malo Gusto came on and immediately raised the energy like someone switching tracks at a house party. Tariq George, Dario Asugo. They didn't get a headline, but they played their notes in tune. Liam Delap, though? He came off the bench and assisted that second goal like he'd been taking notes on the sidelines. The cross wasn't flashy, it was decisive. A scalpel pass that deserved the finish it got. And then we slide over to LAFC. If this was a film, Hugo Lloris would get the Indie Award for Best Solo Performance in a Foreign Drama. He saved everything he could. Top corner, bottom left, close range, it didn't matter. The man was a wall dressed in goalkeeper gloves. He didn't deserve to be on the losing side, but football isn't about deserving. It's about doing. Denis Bouanga gave everything. He ran, he pressed, he tried to shake Chelsea's rhythm with sheer stubbornness. But he was a soloist in a choir that never harmonized. David Martinez, meanwhile, brought fire. Not finesse, not subtlety, just fire. Sometimes that's enough. Tonight, it wasn't. And Olivier Giroud, yes, that Olivier Giroud, came on and played like a man trying to bend reality with a flick. It didn't happen. But the aura? Still there. The threat? Still visible. What makes football so brutal, so beautiful, is that all of these individual efforts, these little tragedies and triumphs, get swallowed by the scoreline. 2-0. That's all it says. It doesn't tell you about the shot that smacked the crossbar, or the keeper who stood up to the storm, or the midfielder who danced into the box like gravity. Was optional. But we remember. We always do. This has been Across the Pitch, over and out.